Da-di-dum, ay, ta-di-da-di-dum, oh, ta-di-da-di-dum, binga-binga-boong in the morning. Hey there, my gorgeous people on the internet. In this episode, we are gonna cover Node.js. Now, everything we did on this channel so far was visual, front-end code, things moving, animating, colors, and everything. However, Node.js is a bit more mysterious, okay? You cannot see it, but it's there and it's powerful. Oh God. Now, before we get into it, I want to thank StudyWebDevelopment.com for sponsoring this video. If you ever wanted to start your own business as a freelancer, StudyWebDevelopment.com offers you a complete bundle to help you grow your own freelancing business from scratch. Their 140-page ebook will teach you how to sell your services, how to get paid more money, and how to market yourself as a developer. This bundle also includes website templates, client proposal templates, invoicing templates, and more. Check the link in the description. If you use the coupon code DevEd, you can get 20% off the current price. So thank you again to StudyWebDevelopment.com for sponsoring this video. Okay, before we get going, let me quickly explain what Node.js is, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there. Some people think it's a framework, some people think it's a programming language, but it's neither of those. All Node.js is just a JavaScript runtime. Now that sounds fancy, but it's not. All it basically means is that we can run JavaScript outside of the browser, because so far what we've done is we've only worked with JavaScript in the browser. So we could do DOM manipulation and things of that sort. But with JavaScript outside of the browser, so using Node, we can do things on our computer now. So things like accessing files, reading, writing files, creating a server, and connecting to a database and things like that. So that's what we can do with Node and JavaScript outside of the browser. So all you have to remember is that we're working with JavaScript, okay? That's all it is on our computer. So let's download this sucker, and all we have to do is go to nodejs.org, and we can click on the recommended for most users. That's gonna be just enough for us. The version might change by the time you're watching this video, but I hope you're watching it now. So anyway, let's go into our VS Code. So after you install it, we can go up here to the terminal. I just created a file here called Node Crash Course. So super fine. Okay, we can open up this terminal here, and we can check if Node is installed. So all we have to do is write node -- version, like so. Hit enter, and you're gonna see that we have our version displayed here. Okay, and what we also get with Node is something called npm, which I'm gonna get into a bit later. So we can also check that by writing npm -- version, hit enter, and there we go. We have the version there as well. Perfect. So what can we do in Node and what we cannot do in Node? So for now, let's just create a file here. And typically you're gonna see it named either app.js, index.js, or server.js. Okay, these are probably the most common ones. We're gonna create this one. I'm gonna call it app.js, because why not? I'm gonna leave this terminal open because we can use it. So I told you that we are just working with JavaScript here. So technically I can do this. I'm gonna console log 5 + 5, and this should work. Now, we cannot open this in the browser. Remember, we're not working with the browser anymore. So how can we run this code? Well, we installed Node and we checked it out by writing node -- version. Well, if we want to run any commands, so we can run files, we can just say node. So this is the initial code that you write here in the terminal. And after you write node, you can specify the file name you want to execute, you want to run. So all we have to do is write node and the file name, app. Okay, we don't even have to say app.js. App is enough. It's automatically gonna know. Hit enter and take a look right there. It's gonna say 10. Wow, amazing. So as you can see here, we can just write normal JavaScript. Okay, but there are a few differences with the browser-based and here in Node.js. So in the browser, before you run your JavaScript code, something gets created. So let me just say browser.js here. I'm gonna make this a bit bigger so you can see. I'm gonna lower this down a bit. So in the browser here, what we have when we run our JavaScript, before we run our JavaScript code, is this big window object gets created. And all this window object is, it just holds a bunch of different methods on top of it, things that you might use like document or even variables that you create get appended to this big window object. So for example, you might use something like document the query selector to get an element and with the class of nav open or something like that. Well, this document actually lives on that big window object. So you can access it like this, window.document.querySelector. But we don't do that because before our code actually runs, the compiler is gonna prepend this window on top of it. So everything, even console.log, even these are on top of this window object, okay? Even if you create a variable const, let's say name equals dev ed, and this is also gonna live here. And also if we create a function, say name, it's gonna be equal to, I'm just gonna create an arrow function here like so. I'm gonna console log name here. This function is also gonna live on the window object, say name. So we can access it like so. But again, this is kind of redundant to write because it's automatically gonna know that it's on the window object. So we don't have to write that anywhere, even with the console log or document.querySelector. Okay, it's gonna know that it lives on that window object. So that's very cool. But in Node.js, we don't have that. So let me delete this. We're gonna write node. We have something called modules here. And all that means is that each file, if you create a function or a variable, only lives in that file. So if I create a const name here equals to dev ed, all right, this name only lives in this file. And the reason why that is because there's something called a module wrapper. And all that is all of our code. Let me just copy this really fast here. Every time we create a file in Node, it's basically wrapped in this function here, okay? So everything is only available in here. And we get access to a few different things. Something called exports, require, module, file name, and their name that we have access to, okay? So what we can also do is we can export different things. So what normally you would see is, again, you cannot see this. This is kind of living behind the scenes, but I just want you to know that when we're going to use these exports, require and file name and their name, is that every time we run a JS file, it's actually wrapped around this function here that Node.js gives us. Okay, so let me just delete this, hit save, and let's just create a new file here. So I can create a say_name file.js, and I can create a function, just a very simple function. I'm going to say const say_name. It's going to be equal to an arrow function here that's just going to console log hello there, Ed. Okay, and now we can actually export this and import it in our app.js. And again, that's something you're gonna see a lot. You're gonna see that we're gonna have a ton of files here, and then you just kind of put everything together in this big app.js file. So this is the only file that we're gonna run. So we don't have to run separate files down here by writing node, say name.js, and all the other ones. We just run node app, and everything else is gonna be connected in here. So we just import everything in this app.js file. So how do we import it? Well, first we have to export this file. So let's go down here and remember that all of our code is actually wrapped into that module wrapper. So we had access to a parameter there called module. So we can just say module.exports and set this equal to whatever we want to export. In this case, the say_name function. Perfect, hit save, and that's all we have to do. Now back in app.js, we can just import that by creating a variable. So I'm just gonna say const, I'm gonna give it the same name, which is same name. That's gonna require, that's also something that we had in that wrapper, that module wrapper, and we can require that specific file. So I can just navigate with a dot and a slash to say name. Perfect, and now I can just call this function here. So now, hit save, I can just call it down here. I can just say node app.js, hit enter, and take a look right there. We get hello there Ed in the terminal. Perfect, Very, very nice. So all you have to remember is that each file that we create is a module that we can export or import. Perfect. Another thing that I want to show you is that we can export multiple things from here. So let's say I have two functions, okay? Let's say we have a say name, and let's say we have a say address or something. Okay, let's set this equal to, I'm gonna console log, and I'm gonna say Johnson Street. That's a legit street. Okay, how can I export these two now? Well, rather than saying module export say name, we can append the function on top of this export. So all you have to do is say module exports, and you can add a dot say name here and set that equal to say name. And now we can say module dot exports dot say address equals to say address. Perfect. So now we don't get back the function here anymore. We actually get back an object. So if we console log say name now, which is actually not a good name because we're exporting say name and say address, but let's just save this. I'm gonna rename this in a bit. If I run Node.js app again, look at that, we are getting back a object with both of our functions. So now say name doesn't really make any sense here to import say name. So I'm gonna rename this to get user info. And here, if I say get user info, we are gonna get the same thing. Node app.js. Perfect, we're getting back the user info. And now if I wanna access a function, I can just delete this. Let's say get user info dot, and look at that, we have say address and say name. So say name, and we can just invoke the function, hit save. Let's take a look again, and there we go, we get the message. The thing we also have, let's go back to this module wrapper, we also have access to something called file name and dir name. So let's console log those out. Console log, let's do dir name, so underscore dir name. And if we run this, so let's go back and run node app.js here. If we hit enter, it's just gonna give us back the directory all the way from our C here, as you can see here. So it gives us back the whole path. We can also get the file name of this app.js by writing underscore file name. So these are a few things that we might need in the future. If we're gonna hit enter here, and we can actually just prepend this with some backticks here, and I'm gonna say file name, and we can append this file name here. So it's a bit more visible. So node app.js, and as you can see, the file name is gonna be all the way from our root project, all the way here to my face, and it's gonna say app.js. Perfect. So now that we created our own modules, let's take a look at some modules that are actually pre-built into Node.js. So we don't have to install anything. We can use these straight out of the box. So we can create a new file. I'm going to create a new file for each one of them. The first one's going to be called path.js, okay? And we can import path by writing const path. So I create a new variable, and I can require path, like so. And again, I don't need to find an actual file here. I don't need to navigate anywhere because this is, again, pre-packed with Node.js. Okay, so let's take a look at what the path, whoops, let me close that up. Let's see what the path can do for us. So the path is basically going to help us combine different paths. If I want to access a specific path, or I want the name of it, or maybe the extension of a specific file, we can use the path module for that. So for now, let's give it a shot. I can get the file location, or maybe the base name of the file. Let's just do file location for now. And I can set this equal to path. And we have a method here called join. And I can join multiple paths together. So let's say I want the directory name that we just saw, which is going to give us our path all the way in this project. And now I can just append a file to it. So maybe I want app.js. Hit save, and let's console log this file. So console log file location. There we go. And let's take a look. Now I'm not gonna run node app.js anymore. I can run node path.js. Hit enter, and there we go. Look at that line. We get the full line all the way to app.js. So we just give the directory name, which stops here before the crash course, and it's automatically gonna prepend this app.js on top of it. Append, not prepend. Okay, so that's one we can use. Let's also take a look. I keep opening this page, so might as well close. We can also get the base name of the file. So we can get that. So now that we have the full path to our app.js, we can also use something called file name. Is going to be equal to, I'm just going to create a variable, path.basename. Okay? And here I can just give it the file location. And now if I run the code again, so let's just console log file name now, file name, hit save, and let's take a look here. Let's run node path.js again and take a look there. We are going to get app.js. So we can just get the simple file name if we want like that as well. So again, there are a lot of different cool methods here on top of this path. You can get base name, directory name, you can format things, you can join them together the way we did up here. We can parse things, resolve, and a lot of different cool stuff. We can get the ext name. Let's also try that. So ext name, and we're gonna just pass the file name in here, and let's console log this. I'm gonna create a name here, file ext equal to this, console log file ext. Hit save, let's console log this as well, and as you can see, we get .js there. So every time you want to work with files and paths, or you want extensions or things like that, just remember you can always use this path module. Perfect. So that's one. The next one we are going to talk about is called the URL module. So let's create another file here, and we're going to call it url.js. And this is used if you want to work with the URL. So we can import that just by saying const URL require URL. So same way we did with the path. Good. And I'm just going to copy an address here. Let me copy and paste this because this is a pretty decent example. So I can create a fake address here, const address. And there we go, just HTTP localhost 8080 and just kind of some parameters in here. Okay, so that's just a random address. Now we can take this address, I can parse it, and I can pull out any information I want from it. So maybe I just want this first part, so the host, okay? Or maybe I want the path name or something. So that would be like default.html, or maybe just the queries passed in here. So I can manipulate this and pull out any information I want from it with this URL module here. So the first thing you do is you need to parse this address so you can work with it. So I'm just going to create a variable here called parsed URL. Okay, and all you do is you get this module that you imported from Node.js URL, and then all you do is you parse it, and then you give it the address. So I'm gonna give it the address. Here you could have copy pasted this in here, but whatever. And we're just gonna say true, okay? And now we can work with this any way we want. So let me just console log a few things we can do with this. We can say parsed URL, like so. And maybe I just want the host, so this part of the website. Or let's say I have dev.com/user/blah, blah, blah. So that would just pull out dev.com. So parsed URL.host. Okay, hit save. Let's take a look. And now we need to run node and URL. Okay, hit save. Let's take a look there. And as you can see, I just get localhost 8080. So I can pull out only the host. Let's also pull out like the default.html from here as well. So I'm going to copy paste this again. And rather than doing host, I'm going to do, let's see where it is. Oops. There we go, path name. So if we do path name, let's take a look again and take a look at there. We get default.html. We can also pull out the query from here by just saying query. So let me copy paste this again, paste it in here, and we can change this to query, which is actually gonna return us an object that we can work with. So node URL, and there we go. You can see we get back an object with the year and the month, and it's nicely formatted. And we can again access this like so by adding another dot here and saying month if we want, and that's just gonna pull out the month. There we go, February. So we can use the URL module to work with URLs, obviously. Oh, what do you use the URL module for? I don't know. Maybe to work with the URL. Okay, that's the second one. The third one I'm going to quickly go through is something called the FS, which refers to the file system. So with this, you can create files, you can read files, and things of that sort. So let's create another file. I'm going to call this fs.js. Perfect. Let's open it up. It's opened up. Never mind. Okay. And we can import that as well. We can just say const fs equals to require fs. Perfect. And let's just create a file here. Let's do fs, and we can do write file. Whoops. Like so. And this actually takes 3 arguments. The first one is going to be the name of the file. I'm just going to say message.text. The second is going to be the value. So I'm just going to say hello there, node. And the third one is going to be a callback function. So you can either do function like so, or you can do an arrow function like so. Whatever you prefer. I like arrow functions because they are awesome. Okay, and we also get back here is we get back something called an error parameter. And we can just check, just in case this fails for some reason, we can just display the error message, or we can handle it any way we want. For now, all I'm gonna do is just say if we have an error, I'm gonna throw an error. Okay, that's it. And down here, what we can do is let's just console log file has been written. Okay, now before I run this is pretty important. What this does is it's actually an asynchronous function here. Okay, and what's happening here is, let's say I just have console log hello or something down here. Well, imagine that this writing this file might take a very, very long time. Imagine that you are writing a 500 megabyte file. Okay, maybe you're uploading somewhere and you have to write that file to your server. So this takes a long time. And what's happening here is that this is a pretty important concept in Node, something called the event loop. And what's happening is that this code will not be blocked. We can continue serving other users or continue running the code down here without our whole application blocking until this file gets uploaded. So you can just kind of imagine that in the simplest of terms is that Node takes this operation, okay, of uploading a file, and it hands it down somewhere else, and it continues to do work, okay? And once the file is finished, it comes back and it serves the file. So you can imagine going to a restaurant or something. The waiter is not gonna go to the waiter is gonna go take an order, and it's gonna go to the chef to make the order. She's not gonna wait there for like 20 minutes. She's like, okay, now the order is done, and I'm gonna serve it to the first person. No, she's gonna go take an order, bring it to the cook, and then go take the next order. That's kind of the same thing that's happening with Node. And whenever the file is ready, it's just gonna go and take it and serve it to the user. Node fs. And there we go. Look at that. We have created a file. Hello there, Node. Perfect. Let's also take a look on how we can read this file. And for that, I'm just gonna console log this out. And down here, we can say fs.readFile, and we can just give the path to message.text here. Second part we're gonna have to add here is the encoding, which is gonna be UTF-8, okay? And the third argument is, again, gonna be that callback. So this is what is going to get returned after the file is successfully read. And here we get access to that error again, but we also get access to the data that we're getting back from the file. So again, we can check if error, throw an error here, and then I can just console log the data whenever it's ready. So let's take a look. All we have to do is just say Node.fs. There we go. Look at that. I misspelled this, so we got an error. But if we're on Node.fs, again, we get hello there Node. And I can add more text here and it's gonna work. I'm gonna hit save and let's read it again. So there we go. Hello there. So there we go. So that's the FS module. But the last module, and probably the most important one that we're going to work with, is called the HTTP module. So let's take a look at that. We're going to say http.js here, and I'm just going to import const http equals require HTTP. And this is going to allow us to create a server. Perfect. So how can we create a server? Well, we're going to say const server is equal to, and what we get in this module here is something called create server. There we go. And this is a function that actually takes a callback. So we can add a callback here. We can just run an arrow function, or you can run a normal function. And here we get access to something called request and response, which I'm going to explain in just a bit. Okay, so after we create that server, we can listen to requests that are made to our server. So to do that, I'm just going to say server.listen. And here we can define a port that we want to listen to. So for now, I'm just going to say 3000. Okay. And now when we go in our browser to localhost 3000, well, we are making a request to that server. So again, so that's the first thing here. And a response here, what it is how we are responding back to the user basically. Okay, so response is what we give to the user and request is what we get from the user. So for now, what we can do is, hey, when someone accesses the localhost 3000, we can write something back. So we can respond in a way. So I'm going to say response here, dot, and I can write a message here. I can just say, hello there, user. And at the end, what you want to do is you want to close up that response. So you have to do this every time. You can say rest.end, and that's going to close up, and that's all you have to do. And here, what we can also do to see, we can also add a callback function to this listen to see that this server actually starts up. So I'm just going to add an arrow function here. I'm just going to add a console log here that says server is up and running. Okay. Just a simple message here and running. Okay, hit save and let's take a look. I can run node http, hit enter and take a look there. We're getting server is up and running. And as you can see, this doesn't close up. This stays open here. Okay, so this will always listen to incoming requests now. So let's take a look at, I'm gonna open up here, localhost 3000. I'm going to pull it up here. And as you can see, whenever we visit localhost 3000, we are going to get this hello there user. Okay, let's take a look what we also have on this request. So I'm just going to console log the request. Hit save here. Perfect. And we actually have to close up our server and restart it to see. So after we restart, I'm just gonna pull this up a bit here. And now, see, as you can see, our request doesn't console log until we visit our localhost again. So I'm gonna hit enter here, and that's when the request is gonna trigger here. So what's happening here is, actually, this is listening to an event, and an event can be an action that fires. So whenever maybe you open a file or you access a specific URL, that's when that event fires. That's what this is doing. That's why it's always staying open, by the way, because it's listening to an event. You can imagine it as we worked on the front end code, we had like a scroll event. So it kind of works the same way. This is always open and listening to an event. And whenever that triggers, well, we have access to this request and response, and we can handle it however we want. So look at this. We have a ton of information here. Oh my goodness. We also get like browser information. Let's see, what else do we have here? But one thing that we have in here is called the URL, which I cannot find for the life of me. And what we can do with that is we can kind of just check where our user is on what URL, and we can send back a response based on the URL that they are on. So the way we can check that is like so. We can say if the request.url triple equals to slash, then we can do the res.write welcome to the homepage. Perfect. And then I can res.end. And now I can also add another one if I want. If request.url triple equals to, let's say, slash user, then I can res.write welcome user Johnson. There we go. And then we can just res.end again. Perfect. Hit save, and let's run this again. I'm going to scroll all the way down here. I'm going to close it. You can also close it with Control-C, by the way. I didn't mention that, so I apologize. Node HTTP server is running. Let's take a look here. Localhost 3000, hit enter. Welcome to homepage. Perfect. And we can go to slash users now and welcome user Johnson. There we go. That's really awesome. So we can actually add HTML in here. So rather than writing welcome to homepage, we can remove this. Actually, I can keep that, but I can wrap it around in a H1. Perfect. H1. Let's close this up. Not like that. Too much React code. There we go. Hit save. And I can also add information in the head here. And again, if you don't know what the head is basically metadata to our page. So in here, the first thing I can provide is this 200, and all 200 means is that everything is okay. Okay, the response is good. We can pass on the data, and in here I can define an object with a content type like so, and I can just add a colon here, and I can say this is a text/HTML. Hit save. We need to close this up again with Control-C and rerun the server. And let's take a look now here. So we have the user that's going to be the same, but in here in our localhost 3000, we actually get back HTML now. So that's pretty cool. We take a look at the source, we get back this. Perfect. And it's going to say, let's take a look. It's going to say content type HTML. So that's very, very cool. But this can kind of get ugly really quickly, because that means that I would have to res.write again something. So I can do 2 if I want, and just add maybe a paragraph in here. So I'm going to change this to a paragraph. That's going to say additional content. Okay, hit save. Let me restart this again really quickly. Open this up. And as you can see, this works perfectly. But what if I just want to write a file in here and expose that rather than doing all of these crazy things? Well, we can do that. We did the FS module and the path module. So what we can do is we can remove everything in here. I'm going to close this up, and I'm just going to import a few things up here. So we can get the path, require path, and we can also get the FS, require FS. Perfect. Let's create an actual HTML page now. I'm going to say index.html. And in here, I can generate one, and I'm going to call this homepage, and I'm just going to say, hello, this is home. I'm going to add a paragraph with some lorem of 20, hit save, and maybe a button if I want to. Button, wow, hit save. All right, so we have an actual HTML page now, and we can render that in here. So the way we can do that is, again, we're checking if we are on slash. We can leave this right head up here and the res.end. Okay, but up here, what I want to do before we do all of this is I want to access the FS, and I'm going to read a file. So let's read file like so, and I can path.join together the dir name like so, and then I can access that file. So again, this just gives us the path all the way in this folder. And then I can just add index, make sure it's in quotes, index.html. There we go. Perfect. So after I read this file, I'm going to add a comma here. So this is the first argument, remember. And we also have access to that error here and the actual content that we're going to get back. So I'm going to say data in here. Okay. And this is going to be an arrow function, because remember, this is only going to run here after we successfully read the file. So what that means is that we actually need to take these two from here and place it in here. There we go. And what we want to do is we have that. And then at the end, what we want to do is say res.write, and I can pass that data that we're getting back from the file. Let's hit enter, close this up and take a look. Hit save, and let's refresh this. And there we go. Look at that. We are rendering a full HTML page. Now this kind of gets super crazy because you're going to have a ton of if statements and everything in here. So that's why you're not going to see a lot of people just use Node.js. They're probably going to use a framework like Express, which is going to take everything that we have in here and make it super, super simple. So don't worry, you don't have to be a pro necessarily in Node.js, because most of the time, again, you're probably going to use a framework. So again, these are some of the core packages that come with Node, but we can install additional different modules and frameworks and other things. And how can we do that? Well, we can do that with npm. We can use npm to install a lot of different packages. So let's take a look on how that works. Whenever you create a project, you want to initialize npm. So we can say that by writing npm init. So down here, okay, where my finger is, we're going to say npm init. Hit enter, and it's going to ask us a few questions. I'm going to close everything up here because we don't need that anymore. And it's going to ask us our package's name. We can leave it like so for now. Version, it's going to be fine. Just hit enter. If you want to add a description, this is just a small crash course on Node. Hit enter. Entry point is going to be app.js, which is fine. We named it app.js. Okay. Test command, we can leave that empty. Git repository, if you want to add a Git repository to it, that's cool. Some keywords to describe the specific package. We can hit enter. You can give the author name, the ved, and license. We're not going to worry about any of that. Just hit OK, OK, OK. It's going to generate us this package here. And basically what this holds is the name of our package and everything in here, and something called scripts, and something that we also are going to have is something called dependencies. So now what this package.json actually is, it just keeps track of all of our different libraries and frameworks or packages that we install with npm. So everything is going to be displayed here so we can track them very, very easily. So one of the packages that I'm going to install is something called Nodemon. So we can install those. Remember how we use Node to run specific files? We can use npm to install files, libraries and things of that sort. Okay, npm install, and all we have to do is just write the name of the package. Let me move out of the way here so you can see. And the first package is called Nodemon, and hit enter. Package.json just shows you the name of your packages installed in your project. Okay, so now that we have Nodemon installed, again, all Nodemon does, it helps us make our development life easier. We don't have to close and restart our server up again if we want to do some changes. It's going to do it automatically for us. And so we can go up here to the script and we can create a script to run this Nodemon for us. And we can also do other scripts here. So let me show you an example that we did so far. We wrote node index app.js to run our code so far. But technically, I can create a script here to run that code. So let me give you an example. I can make something called develop here, for example. I can give any name I want here. And I can just run node in app.js here if I want. Hit save. And the way you can run a script is by writing npm run and the name of the script. So develop. Hit enter. And there we go. Look, we just ran the node app.js. Perfect. So let me actually do a console log here or something so we can see. hello. Let's run that again. So npm run develop. And there we go, we get hello. Awesome. So how can we integrate NodeMon? I'm gonna keep develop here, and I'm just gonna replace node with NodeMon. Hit save, and let's take a look again. I'm gonna run npm run develop, but this is gonna do something else. As you can see, it starts watching our code. So now, every time I wanna change this, I'm gonna say, I love you, and hit save. It's gonna automatically update everything for us. We don't have to keep closing the server with Control-C, terminate, and then reopen it. So this is a very, very cool package that is highly, highly used. And finally, when you wanna share your project, you can actually just ignore this file. So when you push up to Git, I'm just gonna create a file here, git ignore. You can add this node module, so you don't need to push up this code, node modules, hit save. And you would just push up all of this code with the package.json. And now after you get that code, all you would have to do is, imagine you have like 20 packages here installed. Well, this node modules would be very huge, probably like 100 megabyte or 200 megabyte. You don't want to include this in GitHub. You would just download this project with a package, and you would just run npm install. And that would automatically install all your packages and create your own node module. All right, there we go. That's the basics of Node.js and npm. So don't worry, you don't have to be an expert in these things, I promise you, because at the end of the day, you're probably going to use a framework like Express or Koa to create servers and REST APIs and things of that sort. So that's the next thing that we are going to get into. So it's going to get fun very quick. And until next time, thanks again so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. Hey, make sure to hit that bell, drop a sub, and yeah, I'm peacing out. Here we go.